Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, as always, on Mondays and Thursdays, Casey Foreman. Thank you, as always, for tuning into the show. I got a great show for you guys today. A lot to discuss. I want to start out by talking about those Los Angeles Lakers. The most recent news, they have won. The Lakers have officially won that Western Conference, beating Denver in only 5 games, doing what the Clippers wish they could do, right? Well, the Lakers do what the Clippers couldn't. They send Denver home in 5. So props to Los Angeles. They are in their first finals since being led by Kobe Bryant in 08, 09. When was the last time Kobe led that? Maybe was it 10? I'm not quite sure. Either way, the first finals appearance since being led by a guy named the late and great Kobe Bryant. Props to the Lakers and LeBron. LeBron getting to his 10th NBA Finals, something only like Bill Russell and those Boston Celtics have done back in the day. So props to LeBron and the Lakers for winning the Western Conference when all odds, especially at the beginning of the year, a lot of the odds were not in their favor. They had a less than 1% chance of winning the finals, according to ESPN at the beginning of the year. Now we see them in the NBA Finals waiting for their opponent out east. Again, the odds were not in their favor. They did it. Props to the Los Angeles Lakers, again, for doing what a lot of people said they could not do in that tough Western Conference. Props to the Lakers, Rob Pelinka, Frank Vogel, LeBron, AD, the whole supporting cast, everybody on the roster. So let's go ahead and get to now what today's episode is going to look like. So I want to discuss NBA Finals matchups for the Lakers. They're going to be playing either Boston or Miami. Obviously, they are going to Game 6 now, going to Game 7 possibly. But I want to discuss the Lakers' possible matchups with Boston or Miami, break down both matchups for the Lakers. After that, I want to discuss LeBron James. Is he still the best player in the world in his 17th season? He's showing a lot of reasons as to, he seems to be proving his case for best player in the world in his 17th season, making it to his 10th finals. What he did in that Western Conference Finals on both sides of the basketball. Is LeBron still proving he's the best player in the world? After that, I want to discuss this year's college basketball season, the NCAA basketball season, if we will have it, what it might look like, some struggles, some challenges they're dealing with right now. So I want to go ahead and discuss for the first time in a long time the NCAA, college basketball season. This upcoming season supposed to start, I think, on November 25th. That is the date they're looking to start at. And then at the very end of the show, I want to discuss the Denver Nuggets one more time. Talk about, is Denver, the next up and coming, or just the next team, everyone should be looking out for in that Western Conference. From what we've seen in this year's postseason, are they the team to beat going forward in that Western Conference? Should they be a team taken more seriously in the Western Conference. So packed show for you guys today. All of that is coming up. But like I said, I want to start with the finals matchups for LeBron and the Lakers. Because they're going to be playing the Boston Celtics or Miami Heat. We'll see how that series ends up. Miami is up 3-2 right now. They're playing on Sunday night. I'm recording this actually on Saturday night, but they'll be playing on Sunday night. So possibly after Sunday, we'll be seeing who the Lakers will be playing. But I want to go ahead and give you guys a sneak peek into that final series, some matchups we might see. Both LA and Miami look dominant after taking both 3-1 leads. Obviously, like I just said, we saw Los Angeles move past Denver after taking the 3-1 lead, making it to the NBA Finals. Miami dropped game 5, forcing game 6 for Boston. So, Boston wins game 5, forces game 6. Denver played very well, but not good enough to win another game. LeBron going to his 10th finals. And again, with the Eastern Conference being so close right now, Boston winning Game 5, forcing Game 6, the series seeming to be going back and forth in momentum. So that Eastern Conference final is very close. I want to talk about that one more time. Talk about both of the two scenarios we just might see in those NBA Finals. Obviously, the young and talented Boston Celtics, led by Brad Stevens, who is somewhat seemingly getting out-coached by a veteran, a coach who's been in the league longer, Erik Spoelstra. Spoelstra is coaching some great basketball for the Miami Heat. Brad Stevens seems a little bit behind, that Miami Heat game plan. Haven't necessarily adapted and reacted as quickly to Spoelstra and the Heat, as the Heat have. But like I said, the young and talented Celtics or the tough and talented Miami Heat. Originally, I did pick the Boston Celtics to win in 7 games. I thought it would go 7. So right now, my pick is still alive. I have not abandoned my pick. Once Miami went up 3-1, I did admit on air and on the record that it is going to be super tough for Boston and highly unlikely they come back from 3-1, but still possible. I did say I thought Miami would go ahead and ultimately win this series after going up 3-1. But man, Game 6, that is obviously the biggest game yet in the series, obviously. And if we see the Celtics win Game 6, that could potentially be a big momentum switch, a big momentum changer in the series, and we could see Boston, taking control. Of momentum and the series in general and in total. But man, that tough, gritty Miami Heat team, it's going to be tough for them to come back and win 3 games straight. Miami, like I said, looks tough on both sides. They have multiple players who can take and make big clutch late game shots, and they play a great team zone defense. So both teams are playing very good so far in the Eastern Conference final. Tough to see, tough to kind of predict which team's going to get the edge. Right now, it's easy to say the Miami Heat obviously being up 3-2, but right now really is tough to see who has the edge after that Game 6 or Game 5 win from Boston. I still am not ruling Boston out of the series with all the offensive firepower that they truly do have, but let's go ahead and start with the Laker-Miami matchup. Before we get to the Laker-Boston matchup, but I do think the Lakers need to be favorited over both Eastern Conference teams, both the Celtics and the Miami Heat. I think the Lakers need to be favorited over both of the teams, simply because they have the 2 best players in both series. They have Anthony Davis, LeBron James, who is better than Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. So I'm taking both of LA's guys over any of the Miami Heat or Boston Celtics guys, or at least those 2 players. But after those 2 players, that's when it really gets interesting. So the first 2 players in all series, I'm taking, boom, Laker, LeBron, Anthony Davis. But after that, it kind of goes 5, 6 or so straight, Celtics or Miami players, right? Because then you're going to go Jimmy, Bam, Dragic, maybe Tyler Hero, maybe Crowder, Iguodala. So those are the next players for Miami, just in the series in general. Then if you go Boston, obviously LeBron, Anthony Davis. Then what? Tatum, Brown, Walker, Hayward, Smart. Dwight Howard, Kuzma. Who's that next guy? Danny Green, KCP. Right. So it's the first two players in this matchup. No matter who the matchup is, goes to LA. The first two players, no matter what, we're going Los Angeles. LeBron, Anthony Davis. Boom, boom. After that, like I said, it goes Heat, or Celtics. So yes, after the first two guys, it's a dramatic drop off for LA, and that has been the story for the Lakers all year. Can they produce? Can they be consistent after their number two players, their first two guys? Can that number third guy step up, be consistent? Because we know it isn't necessarily two players. You need a whole team, especially in basketball. In today's game, you need that third guy to step up and deliver, because you don't necessarily always have, the best performances from those two guys. Relying on just one or two guys does not always translate to great success in the postseason. A great example of that is Miami versus Milwaukee. Milwaukee, a team that only thrives when their number one player is doing great, when he's thriving, when he's getting his shots, getting to his spots. That is when Milwaukee thrives and plays its best basketball. None whatsoever does not happen when Giannis is struggling, more likely than not. And then in comparison to a team like the Miami Heat, who beat the Milwaukee Bucks, they have guys, multiple players, where if Jimmy Butler doesn't necessarily have a great game, they can usually rely on either Bam, Hero, who's another, let me see, Bam, Hero, Crowder, maybe Dragic, right? Dragic, that's who I was thinking of. So even if they don't have just Jimmy going off, they have multiple guys, then who they can rely on, where in comparison to the Lakers or Miami or Milwaukee, like I said, just relying on that one guy, or the Lakers case, just relying on those two guys, hoping a third guy can step up. Rondo has been great since he's returned. Dwight Howard was pretty great versus Denver. KCP has stepped up in the postseason. Kuzma has been around 10, 11 points on. But either way, the Lakers seemingly have had that third guy on a given night step up, and Anthony Davis and LeBron have had, barring a couple of occasions, have had a great postseason so far. Again, LA needs to be favored over both teams. They have the two best players, but both Miami and Boston, like I said, are deeper than LA and the Lakers. Like I said, the Lakers rely on two players far too much, where for Boston and Miami, they have 3 to 5 guys to rely on any given night. For Miami, obviously, led by a guy in Jimmy Butler, seemingly the perfect fit for Miami. And if you missed my podcast last week, my last episode last week, don't forget the Miami Heat also have cap room going forward. They have room to sign, yes, yet another all-star caliber player, adding to the depth, possibly, of this already incredibly deep team. So yes, Miami has cap room, but as far as who they're being led by, yes, Jimmy Butler, the seamless fit, perfect fit player who came in and produced right away, and it translated to wins right away. So Miami being led by Jimmy Butler in his first Eastern Conference final. Then a guy in Bam Adebayo, also in his first Eastern Conference final. First time All-Star Bam he's stepping up, playing great in this year's postseason. 17, 10, and 4 or 5, I think, for Bam in this year's postseason. So incredible for Bam. He has stepped up, improving. He should have been this year's most improved player. Jimmy, again, proving he is a all-star, all-NBA caliber player. Tyler Hero has stepped up to showing he's looking like potentially he could have been the rookie of the year all year, right? Showing it in the biggest moments possible. He's playing some of his best basketball he's played in his career. So Tyler Hero showing he has what it takes to step up when the lights are at their brightest. In the biggest moments in the postseason, Tyler Hero drops 37 points, the second most points since Magic Johnson for a 21-year-old. First player born in the 2000s to play in a conference final. Wrap that around your head. He was born in the 2000s, and yet he is balling in the Eastern Conference final, dropping 37 points in game 4. to take the 3-1 lead. He drops 37 points. So yeah, in game 4, he goes off, first guy since Magic Johnson to be that young, playing, at such a high level in the postseason. But yeah, Miami, Jimmy, Bam, Dragic, Hero, Crowder, Iguodala, Olynyk. I'm guessing I'm missing players. Derek Jones Jr. Not so much there, but you know what I'm talking about. Jimmy, Bam, Dragic, Hero, Crowder, Iggy. For Boston, Tatum, Brown, Walker, Smart. Marcus Smart, Gordon Hayward. 5 guys right there. So Miami has what? Jimmy, Bam, Dragic, Hero, Crowder, Iguodala, about 6 guys there they can pretty much rely on every night. Not huge numbers for all those guys, but 6 guys they can rely on. And for Boston, 5 at least guys they can rely on basically any given night in Tatum, Brown, Walker, Smart, and Hayward. So still many players I'm missing on that list, but still both Miami and Boston showing how deep they are. The Celtics, they have obviously the offensive firepower, 3 players averaging 20-plus points per game in Walker, Smart, and Tatum. Walker, Brown, and Tatum. But both teams are not just one-sided. Okay, both teams play both sides of the basketball. Both teams play great one-on-one defense, and they can check on one-on-one. Or we also see them converting and playing a lot of team zone defense, and they are elite at their zone defenses as well. So both defenses will be focused obviously on LeBron and Anthony Davis. Both would be the best defense, I think, in comparison to who they've played so far, the Lakers. Both Boston and Miami, whoever they play, that defense, either Miami or Boston, that would be the best defense the Lakers would play in this year's postseason. I think the Boston's defense and Miami's defense is tougher than Denver's, Houston's, and clearly tougher than the Trailblazers, who had one of the worst defenses in the league. So yes, this defense from Miami or from Boston will be the toughest challenge yet for Los Angeles. Let me see here. Both Miami and Boston have multiple defenders. Yes, that's a very good point. They have multiple defenders to throw at LeBron James. Jason Tatum for Boston. Jaylen Brown for Boston. I am losing mainly those 2 guys you want to throw at LeBron. Maybe Marcus Smart can get his fair share. I'm trying to think of who they have. Maybe Gordon Hayward, you throw him at him every now and then. But, for the most part, they have a couple of guys they can throw at. But I don't think Boston is well equipped necessarily to guard either AD or LeBron, but they have a great team defense where it'll make up for the one-on-one matchups, I believe. But Miami, I think they are very well equipped to throw bodies at LeBron. They got Jimmy, maybe throw Bam on him for a little bit. Iguodala, Jay Crowder, Derek Jones, a body you can throw at him. So many players, Jimmy, Bam, Iggy, Crowder, you can throw at LeBron when the other guy's getting tired. You can devote Iggy all night to say you are guarding LeBron. That is all your energy. We've seen him do it before. Hold LeBron to 27, 8, and 8, or 30, 10, and 10, whatever he held him to when he won the Finals MVP. He has guarded LeBron before. Maybe can help him or force him to take a slight step back defensively, but yeah, Miami has players to throw at LeBron, but who does either squad, Celtics or Miami, who do they have to throw at Anthony Davis? Bam Adebayo, that's probably Miami's best bet and the best bet in general, but smaller compared to Anthony Davis, but a very tough and strong guy. So he's probably the best bet. Bam is a very good defensive player, but Bam, besides that, is it Daniel Tice for Boston? Is it Cancer for Boston? Is it Tatum? Is it Olynyk for Miami? Who is going to guard Anthony Davis for both Miami and Boston? I think Bam would have to take that effort on, but that's going to take him away from the offensive side. All the energy he's devoting to trying to stop Anthony Davis. Daniel Tice, He's a tough defender, but not very athletic. Won't do much with Anthony Davis, I don't think, but he's tough down low. Cantor, not much of a defender whatsoever. Olynyk, maybe he can be a little gritty and grindy down low, but not much of a defender Olynyk is. So who's going to guard Anthony Davis besides Bam Adebayo? Who's going to guard him for the Boston Celtics at all? Lots of zone defenses, I think, is what we're going to see from both Miami and Boston, to try and stop LeBron and AD. I think we're going to see a lot of team zone defenses, but team and zone defenses can be very difficult to play. We saw Toronto play it against Golden State last year, against the Bucks last year, and it worked tremendously for them. We see both Miami and Boston doing it this year, so I think we're going to see a lot of zone defense played in the finals from that Eastern Conference team. The finals matchup will be the toughest yet, the toughest matchup in this year's postseason yet for the Lakers, I think. The Celtics have much more firepower, okay? If they want a chance in this series, the Celtics have to have their big three in Tatum, Brown, and Walker. They've all three got to be averaging 20-plus points per game. Tatum has to be around the 25, 10, and 5 where he's been at, playing on both ends. Brown has to be dominant on both ends of the ball, which he pretty much has been lately. So Brown needs to show up on both ends. Tatum needs to show up on both ends. Kemba Walker needs to remain consistent. He has been very inconsistent in this year's postseason. We know he's an undersized guard, so you can kind of see a larger guard stop him from getting to his spots at times. So maybe the Lakers, Rondo, who's pretty good defensively, Caruso, who's okay defense, maybe they can knock Kemba off of his game. I don't think that's your best bet. I think it's more going to be Kemba in the big moment being inconsistent than the players throwing him off his game. But the Boston Celtics, they need Kemba to be consistent. They need their big three in Tatum, Brown, and Walker to be on fire. All three averaging 20-plus points per game. Miami needs to keep it up. Keep everyone consistent. Keep that ball movement going. Remain unselfish. Keep that culture going. Keep that locker room environment going. We know the team chemistry is at an all-time high for Miami. They seem to be playing for the love of the game and at an all-time high level. So Miami needs to keep up the high and consistent play, remain locked in, and honestly, for both teams would beat Los Angeles in a very different way. In order for Boston to beat Los Angeles, they're going to do it with their offensive firepower. Like I said, with Tatum, Walker, Brown, Smart, Hayward, their offensive firepower. That is how they would beat the Lakers. For Miami, I think it would be more of their defense than their offense. That zone defense, they're switching, they're moving. They have guys who are going to take and make clutch shots. So I think it's more of the defense for Miami, more of the offense for Boston. But Miami has a very consistent offense as well as a tough defense. I'm sticking with the Lakers to win it all, to win the title this year. I'm happy they made it to the finals. My pick to win the Western Conference has officially come true. It was correct. So I'm happy that happened. My pick for the Western Conference was correct. My pick for the Eastern Conference, Toronto, fell through. My new pick, Boston, still alive. We'll see how that plays out. I'm still sticking with Los Angeles to win it all. We will see LeBron. Potentially we'll see LeBron against his former team in the Miami Heat and his former head coach in Eric Spoelstra, or we will see yet again the legendary matchup in the finals of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics, two of the most legendary and talked about franchises in all of basketball. So whether they're going to see a legendary Laker-Boston matchup or LeBron against his former team and coach in Miami. The finals will start this week, so stay posted. They're starting this week. We are almost done with basketball, guys. Keep it close to your heart. Watch as many games as you can, even if you're not too particularly interested in that matchup. In Boston and Miami, go watch it while you can. We only have one more series in this year's postseason. Crazy to think how fast the playoffs have been flying by. It truly is how crazy, and crazy to think LeBron is making it to his 10th NBA Finals. LeBron is in his 10th NBA Finals. Props to him and the Los Angeles Lakers for getting it done. As basketball is nearing its end, if you're a big basketball guy, and if you think you can kind of predict the outcomes of these games, listen up, sports bettors. I'm here to tell you guys about my favorite sports book, and that is BetUS. Football, basketball, baseball, they are all back, and that means it's time to get down your bets. I only endorse one sports book, And yes, that is BetUS.com. Why do you ask? BetUS is the pioneer in online betting with more than 25 years in the business. You need a sportsbook with integrity, longevity, and you need to know that you're going to get paid. You need a sportsbook that offers everything, including live betting, MMA, golf, horses, esports, entertainment of all kinds. You got crazy prop bets, futures. They have it all. Nobody in the industry gives bigger bonuses than BetUS. Go to BetUS now, fill out your information. It only takes a couple of minutes, and when you get to the How Did You Hear About Us box, type in GSMC and get up to 150% in bonuses on your first deposit. Nobody can beat that. I bet at BetUS, so should you. Join BetUS today, and don't forget to type in GSMC to get up to 150% in bonuses on your first deposit. That's BetUS.com. I'll see you guys there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Like I said before the break, I want to discuss, yes, LeBron James one more time in the show, okay? Just one more time, and then we'll be all done for LeBron for the podcast, okay? But I think he deserves to be talked about one more time. Like I said before the break, I want to talk about LeBron. Is he still the best player in the world? In his 17th season, is he still number one? Is there anybody you guys can put above him? Right now, today, I'm talking today, is there anyone you can put above LeBron? LeBron, the reason I'm talking about this, he has been having a very good postseason in Orlando. He's obviously, like I said, in his 17th season in the NBA, in his second season with the Los Angeles Lakers. We know how his first season went on. He averaged, 27, 8-8, around that, 27, 8-8. They missed the playoffs. He has the groin injury, a huge disappointment for Los Angeles. You got the Wash King things going on. You got people saying he's no longer the best player in the world. He's taking a step back, blah, 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 blah. All of this was going on last year. And again, we all were, I even Smalley, was a part of this, a small percentage. But we were being prisoners of the moment. Prisoners of the moment. You don't see your guy in the postseason, or you see him not play at the best level for a short amount of time. You take that amount of time too seriously, and you make a whole bunch of ideas or conceptions. And basically, from what you see is what you get. You're the prisoner of the moment. LeBron just dropped, the 30-point triple-double, and to go on to his 10th finals. He's the best player ever. That's a great example. If there was no prior evidence to saying LeBron is the best player, if that was the only evidence out there and we simply use what we saw today, that is somewhat being a prisoner of the moment. But either way, like I said last year, a disappointing season last year in his first showing with the Lakers. After the reason I'm talking about this now, he had a great performance in Game 4, not necessarily offensively, but defensively. I saw great flashes of LeBron defensively at the end of Game 4, propelling the Lakers to that 3-1 lead. At the end of Game 4, great defensively. He locks in on Jamal Murray with about 5 minutes to go. He takes Jamal Murray. He says, I'm guarding you one-on-one. He's the guy who's been beating us all night, all series long. And for us to lose this game, it means this guy is going to have to beat us. I'm going to have to step up and stop this guy. If I don't, he's going to beat us. The Nuggets are going to beat us again. So LeBron James, he checks Jamal Murray in the last 5 or so minutes in the fourth quarter in Game 4. And Murray misses, 5 or 6 shots, turns the ball over several times. LeBron is clearly gets the better of him in this matchup, clearly locks him down. A couple of plays can go either way. You saw the slap on the wrist or whatever you say, but you can also say Jamal Murray has not earned that call in the postseason on LeBron James, yet he has not earned that call. LeBron earned not to have that call on him, played great lockdown defense, stopped Jamal Murray from scoring in the last 5 minutes of the game, forced many turnovers, and is ultimately the reason why the Lakers took that 3-1 series lead. He has shown, and for a time, a lot of us thought he simply stopped playing, on this side of the basketball. But he has shown us that he has not forgotten, that side of the basketball. He has not forgotten how to play defense. He can still pick and choose his moments when it's time to turn it up and lock it down. That's the best way to say it. He knows when it's time to turn it up and lock it down. And on who, so he picked the perfect moment to show us all he still has it on both sides of the basketball. In Game 4, he locks down Jamal Murray. In Game 5, to close out the Nuggets, he becomes the second player, I think, ever, or maybe just in Laker history, or maybe in postseason history, to drop 30-plus points, 15-plus rebounds, 10-plus assists. Does it in the last game in the Western Conference Final to advance to his 10th NBA Finals. So he shows us, especially in this Western Conference Final, by locking down Jamal Murray, the 16 points in the fourth quarter in Game 5, he's showing us on both sides of the ball who he is and who he has been for the last 17 years, and especially over for the past, decade or so, you should say, and that's the best player in the world. Again, he's showing us he can still pick and choose his moments. In this year's postseason, this year's playoffs, he's averaging 26 points, 8 rebounds, or 8.5 assists. So 26 points, 8.5 assists, 10 rebounds per game on 54% shooting. So 26-8, basically 26, 9, and 10 on 54% shooting, 34% from the three-point line. He averaged, in the first round of the postseason against Portland. Yes, he played Portland in the first round. So in the first round of the postseason, LeBron averages a triple-double, I think 29 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, or 28, 10, and 10. Beats Portland, arguably the best 8 seed ever, right? He beats them in just 5 games, and he, again, is the only player ever to average a triple-double in the postseason. First player ever, second player ever to do so, but who was the first player? Him. So he does it for a second time, averages a triple-double for a playoff series. First player ever, second time he has done that. So yes, in the first round, he beats Portland and the Trail Blazers 4-1 after dropping the first game of the series. Averages triple-double, plays dominantly, beats Portland 4-1. Then they move on to play the 2 MVPs in Houston. They drop Game 1. The MVPs are playing dominant offensively on the perimeter. Can LA stop this team? It's going to go 6 or 7 games. Then LeBron and the Lakers win 4 straight. Move on to their their first Western Conference Final as a group. So there was worry about them versus Houston after the first game. They dropped Game 1 to the 2 MVPs. Then they go on to win 4 straight. Then they go on to the Western Conference Finals. They play Denver. They win Game 1. They win Game 2. They're up 2-1 on this team. It's looking down. It's looking like this team is going to be a sweep. Or no. They're up 1-1. They goes 1-2, then they go up 2-1. I'm sorry. But, after the first couple of games, people are saying sweep. It's done for LA, or it's done for Denver. This Laker team is taking them much more seriously. It's done. So they beat, then they go on to beat Denver. They don't choke like that other Los Angeles team did. They stay steady. They stay consistent. They send the up and coming comeback kids. They send them home in just 5 games. They do what the Clippers could not. Again, they beat the team. They beat Denver. Who beat Utah coming back from 3-1, and then they beat the Clippers coming back from 3-1. The Lakers beat that team in 5 games. They beat them in 5 games. A team who went 7 games with the Clippers, a team people said the Clippers would smash, would completely annihilate the Lakers. They get beat by the Nuggets, and the Nuggets get beat by the Lakers. Okay. Yeah, I've heard this all, or for a couple of, for about a week now, since the Lakers lost, I've heard it's rock, paper, scissors. One thing beats another thing, but it can't beat the other, right? So people were saying the Laker or the Clippers were the rock to the Lakers' scissors, right? They are the rock. But the Nuggets were the paper to cover their rock. So it was like the Clippers couldn't beat the Nuggets because they could only beat the Lakers, right? It was, I've heard excuses like that being tossed out there now. Either way, the Lakers beat the team that beat the Clippers, a team that was supposed to beat them. In the regular season this year, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but on the regular season, in the regular season this year, LeBron James, 25, 10, and 7, almost 50% from the field, led the league in assists, went to the point guard position, led the league in assists in his 17th year, almost 10.5 assists, almost 11 at one point, but it was 10 assists, 25 points, 7 rebounds, led the league in assists, assist champ, second in MVP voting in his 17th year, so second in MVP voting, only getting 16 votes to Giannis's, 80 or so. So I think he did get snubbed, but still was second in MVP voting in his 17th season. Not something you can say for basically anybody in the league. Maybe, maybe Karl Malone, who was a MVP or a contestant or a candidate that late in his career. Either way, basically nobody has been an MVP candidate that late in their career. He was also first team All-NBA, obviously an All-Star, but first team All-NBA, gets the most All-NBA performances or achievements ever in the league. He has been on the All-NBA team the most time, more than anybody in NBA history, with 16 appearances. So 16 All-NBA appearances. He's first team All-NBA. And this year, in the postseason, when it matters most, right? So when it matters most in the postseason, LeBron is playing like the best player in the league. So when it matters most, LeBron is playing the very best basketball, and that is what you want to see from the best player in the league. So like I said, when it matters most, LeBron is playing like the best player in basketball. Is there a player better today? Is there a player in basketball better today? A very good and a very tough question. But is it? Is it really that good and that tough of a question? I mean, honestly, Kawhi Leonard, another guy on the short list of players competing with LeBron for that top spot. Kawhi obviously has been doing it for the past couple of years after winning with Toronto, has been on the short list of players coming for LeBron, right? But Kawhi now is sitting on his couch. Maybe he's in the Bahamas vacationing with Damian Lillard, or Cancun with Dame Lillard and CJ. But Kawhi is sitting on his couch watching the postseason from his couch from home after blowing a 3-1 lead to those Denver Nuggets. He blows a 3-1 lead, has a terrible fourth quarter performance in Game 7, a terrible Game 7 performance. He is sitting on his couch at home after blowing a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets. Kawhi is. Giannis, another guy, in the race, right? Giannis got marginalized again For 2 years, back-to-back consecutive, Giannis has been marginalized in the postseason. His game comes up short when he cannot get to his spots. In the paint, 2 feet away from the basket. So Giannis can get to his spot. He gets marginalized, and him and the Milwaukee Bucks get sent home early in that second round. So Kawhi blows 3-1 lead, gets sent home early. Giannis gets marginalized, gets sent home early. I know. Still. KD, right? Kevin Durant, another guy after his time in Golden State. During his time in Golden State, people said he had the crown. He was the best player in the world. I know it's easy to say that when you're playing on the best team, you're the best, arguably the best player. It's easy to say that you're winning the finals MVPs. I completely understand that argument there. Kevin Durant, a 7-foot guy, can shoot all over the court, can dribble, pass, do it all. So I am all for the Kevin Durant surpassing LeBron in today's game argument. I'm all for that talk. But right now, Kevin Durant, he's sitting at home. He's rehabbing. He is getting ready for next season. He is out of sight, therefore out of mind, right? Similar to last year's postseason, last year's playoffs, when, obviously there was no LeBron. LeBron doesn't make the postseason after his disappointing first run with the Lakers and that groin injury. LeBron doesn't make the postseason, so there's no LeBron. Kevin Durant gets hurt in the NBA Finals. Giannis goes out in the conference finals, gets marginalized. Kawhi beats Giannis in the Bucks. Kawhi beats Steph and the Warriors. And since we saw him, he was the last person we saw, in last year's season. He was the Finals MVP, right? So out of sight, out of mind. LeBron was out of sight. People were saying he's no longer the best player. He washed King. He couldn't get the Lakers to the playoffs. Washed King, out of sight, out of mind, right? So LeBron wasn't it. KD got hurt. He wasn't it. Giannis got marginalized. He wasn't it. Kawhi wins the Finals MVP. He beats Giannis in the Bucks, the MVP. Everyone is saying he is the best player in the world, right? Everyone's saying that Kawhi, no Kevin Durant, no LeBron, no Giannis. Kawhi's the last player standing, holding the trophy at the end. He's got to be the best player. He broke up the Warriors dynasty, the Heat dynasty. He's a dynasty breaker. Kawhi's the best player. He's a go-get-a-bucket guy, can stop any guy you want. But now, there is no Kawhi. He blew a 3-1 lead. He's sitting at home. There is no Giannis. He got marginalized, got injured. He's sitting at home. There is no Kevin Durant. He's sitting at home, hasn't played all year. And now LeBron will be playing in his 10th NBA Finals with the Los Angeles Lakers, a legendary brand and team. He'll be playing in his 10th finals with the Los Angeles Lakers, purple and gold. He is proving he is still a two-way, an ultimate two-way player, at least when he wants to be, shutting down, arguably shutting down Jamal Murray at the end of Game 4, and then his epic Game 5 fourth quarter performance, dropping 16 points, 38 points, 15-plus rebounds, 10-plus assists. He's doing it, when it matters most, and he's playing arguably, like some of his best basketball. So when it matters most, he's playing at his best, and that is what I want from the best player in the league. Tell me right now, who is playing at a better level than LeBron? Next year, I am all for revisiting this topic. We'll see how the finals go. Maybe we will revisit it during the NBA Finals. But right now, still as LeBron's playing in the finals after beating the Nuggets, 10th NBA Finals, 16th All-NBA, second in MVP voting, the 38-15, 10-plus, shutting down Jamal Murray, Western Conference Final. Man, right now, I'm still rolling with LeBron James. I think LeBron still wears the crown in the NBA today. I'm not taking a single guy over LeBron today. Now, going forward, you can say Anthony Davis averages more points, more rebounds, a better percentage. He's better. If you've been watching the Lakers, LeBron is the engine of this team. They would not win a game without LeBron James. So he is the engine that makes this team go. He's the best player on the best team in the league right now. LeBron James, to me, is still the best player in year 17, still the best player in the league today. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. When I come back, discuss that college season in 2020 and Denver. Are they the team to beat going forward in that Western Conference based off what we've seen so far? Don't go anywhere. That all is coming up next.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, guys. Like I said before the break, I want to discuss this year's college basketball season, the NCAA basketball season, something I have not discussed in a very long time. Simply because we haven't had college basketball and we haven't known really when we're going to have it back. But with us somewhat nearing the return, hopefully, of college basketball and us nearing the end of the NBA season, I thought, why not? It's not a better time than kind of intro it, start the discussion of the college basketball season in 2020. The last time we saw NCAA basketball, we were nearing the March Madness tournament earlier this year. It was very disappointing to see that get canceled, but ultimately for the safety of the players, it was the right thing to do. We completely understand why they had to do so. Keep the players safe. Keep your students safe. So it was the right thing to do to cancel the season last year. But as of now, my Virginia Cavaliers are still, the reigning champs. I saw them win it the last time we had a tournament. So my Cavaliers are still the reigning champs. Go Hoos. But yeah, go Virginia Cavaliers. We'll see what they can do. They're missing a lot of offense now. They still have that defense structure with Tony Bennett, but man, not looking great for U of A going forward. But either way, November 25th is the targeted start date for the NCAA this year. But there are a lot of roadblocks to overcome, as the NCAA what football has had to overcome, and they are still overcoming. NCAA basketball is going to have to do the exact same thing, and maybe even more, because we'll be in flu season, more winter. I don't want to say it'd be even harder or even worse or even more for them to do. But yeah, we see NCAA doing their best right now with their football seasons. 25th is the targeted date. But man, are there a lot of roadblocks to overcome? The biggest, or one of the bigger questions, there's a lot of big questions, but one of the bigger questions now is, can you keep these players safe? A lot of people aren't even on college campuses now. They're at home, online courses. Some campuses are having people come up, live on campus in smaller numbers and such, but can you keep the players safe? That has got to be the number one concern, obviously, for everybody. Can you keep everybody safe? College students, we know how many people are on those packed big universities. We know how many people are there. Can you keep every student safe? Are you going to test them as much? How are you going to make sure every player isn't, putting themselves at risk in comparison to others? Are they all mandated to stay in their dorms, go to practice, go to class, go home? How do you mandate that? How do you keep every single player safe? That is the biggest question. How big these campuses are. How can you keep every single one of your players and your students safe by a virus like this, from a virus like this? Also, we know how important, this basketball, the men's basketball tournament is to the NCAA, in general. Billions of dollars they bring in every year from that tournament, from ads and people viewerships and You name it, they're making money from it, so that we know how important the men's tournament is, basketball tournament is, so we know they're going to be putting all priorities on getting it back so they can add it back to their budget, that income they need. They're relying on that, on their overall budgets, obviously. So we know how important the tournament is. We know how many people are on those campuses. So can you keep these players safe so you can have your tournament that means so much to you? Also, what happens when there's a positive case, when someone tests positive for this virus? Right now, it's said that the whole team, even if one player is on it, the whole team will have to quarantine and self-isolate for 14 days for the recommended 2 weeks. So if one player gets it, the whole team is down 2 weeks. If you're in the middle of a season or going into the men's tournament, that could potentially completely screw with your chances against a team for the tournament in general. So quarantining a whole 2 weeks, the whole team, even if just one player has it, that is a process that may need to get looked at. I've seen some coaches having pushback on that because of what I just said, depending on what part of the season they are in. 2 weeks of not practicing can really screw with their chances. Again, though, you're talking about players' health. So are your chances as important to a player's safety? No. But man, if only one player has it and the whole team has to isolate, and that could potentially really hurt a team's chances against a team that has been playing and practicing consistently. So yes, I see that being a big concern. I understand that concern from the coaches. So 2 weeks from the whole team, if just one player has it, so the whole team, that might be a bit much. How would that work? It's going to be a lot of delays, but I understand you want to keep all players safe. How often also will you be testing these players? They're thinking about doing about 3 times per week for players and officials and such. But college football has been doing that, kind of playing with that. They've had to have some postponal of some games being postponed, some delays from players getting the virus and quarantining and such. So the NCAA football, they are still figuring this out. I think they're going to try to figure it out for basketball season when that comes around. Hopefully they'll have everything kind of figured out as far as how much to test, when to test, and how long to quarantine, that stuff. So they should honestly look at football, what they're kind of doing now. But how often will you be testing these players? Will it be about 3 times per week? Will they be quarantining for about 3 weeks? So college football is kind of the test guinea pig. They're learning a lot of what they're going to be doing in basketball season now, kind of getting out all the kinks. So basketball is kind of having an advantage here as to where there's a season before theirs, kind of working out all the kinks and bugs to maybe perfect their bubble, their season, their safety, all that, etc. But college football has had roadblocks. They are still playing, still learning, still figuring it out, obviously. But man, we need college basketball. Those college players, they need to be able to showcase their talent. The universities, they need to bring in, the money from these NCAA tournaments and basketball games. So us, the fans, then the universities, the players, we are all in need of some college basketball. It's not just one of us. I don't think there's leverage anywhere necessarily. Everyone here needs some college basketball. And if the NCAA has trouble this year, or we don't see a full season, will we see more college players committing to the G League route in comparison to the one-and-done route? Maybe the G League will have a safer environment. They can keep playing, showcase their talents for more people to see, in comparison to not playing at all because it's not safe to be playing on a college campus. So because of this, will we be seeing more players taking the G League route in comparison to the one-and-done college route? Will this have an effect on that? Will this have an effect on college? Their budgets, their scouting. They need an NCAA reason for very many reasons. But man, we need it as fans. For me, a Virginia Cavalier fan, I'm all cool being the reigning champs, for yet again another year. But I think we need basketball for the players' sake, for the university's sake, and for the fans' sake. We need the game back. That's one of the true and just great levels to watch. At the college level, they're playing to make it. They're playing for the fun of it. They don't yet have their huge paycheck. So it's a great level to watch. The college level. We need it back, but we need it to be safe. So safety is a priority. If they can, follow an NCAA, the college football's footsteps and make, the basketball league or a season even safer, I say go for it. These players need to showcase their talents before they move on to other places. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. That's what I think about the college, 2020 college basketball season. It is up in the air. We don't necessarily have a definite answer. November 25th is the target date. We need college basketball more than ever, especially with the NBA nearing its end. It'd be nice to pick up, get right back into college as soon as the NBA ends. That's what I think. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, talk about those Denver Nuggets. Are they the team to look out for in that Western Conference? I'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, guys, thank you for sticking around, this far into the podcast. This is my final segment of the show today. Like I said before the break, let's talk about the Denver Nuggets, okay? After a great playoff run, they have been sent home by the Los Angeles Lakers. Excuse me. Because of what I saw from this year's postseason run from that young team, I feel it necessary to discuss, Denver and them being the up-and-coming possible team to beat in the coming years in that Western Conference. Why not, right? Denver, like I said, their legendary postseason run has come to an end. The first team in NBA history to come back from multiple 3-1 deficits in the same postseason run. They are the first team ever to do so. The comeback kids. Truly, they are the comeback kids. They were beaten by the Los Angeles Lakers in 5 games, but the Nuggets deserve a lot of props and respect from what they did. They beat the Utah Jazz, coming back from a 3-1 deficit. Jamal Murray drops 50 points multiple times in the series. A clutch Game 7 performance from him and those Denver Nuggets. They do the impossible, near impossible, in the first round. Then they go on in the second round to face the prohibited favorites, Los Angeles Clippers. They go down 3-1 on the Clippers. All hope is lost. Clippers are underestimating the Nuggets in games 5, 6, and 7. Comeback kids, they come back. They beat the Clippers. They come back from 3-1, down 3-1. They beat Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Will, Montrezl Harrell, Doc Rivers. They beat that team. They beat the, quote, best team, deepest team in the world. Okay, then they go on to challenge the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Final. That if you watch the Western Conference Finals, that the Nugget team challenged LA in what? They played 5 games. In 4 out of the 5 games, LA was challenged, and it was a close game in 4 out of those 5 games. They could have went either way, barring on the last 5 or so minutes, on the last quarter. So they challenged the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James in almost in all 5 games they played in the Western Conference Final. A huge overachievement, for this team this season. A huge overachievement for this team in the regular season. Jamal Murray and Jokic. So The duo, Murray averages 18 and 5 in the regular season. Jokic averages 27 and 9. So Murray goes from 18 and 5 to 27, 6 and 5. Okay, 27, 6 and 5 and 46% from the three. And then Jokic goes from 27 and 9 to 24, 10 and 6. Okay, so both Murray and Jokic, all of their numbers improved from regular season to postseason. They all drastically improved. Michael Porter Jr., the rookie, averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 47% from the floor in the postseason, increasing his points from about 8 points per game to 11.5 and 7 rebounds per game on almost 50% shooting. So those three guys, I think they are the three young core, the young core for Denver: Porter, Jokic, and Murray. But all three of their stats improved in comparison from the regular season to the playoffs. All three players stepped up and improved their games, and that is exactly what you want to see from your main player, from your best players. You want to see them play better in the biggest moments. When it all matters most, you want to see the best level of play possible, and that is what you saw from Murray, Jokic, and Porter. Truly the comeback kids, a legendary postseason performance, coming back from 3-1 2 times, the first team ever to do so. Again, all numbers improved from regular season to playoffs. Exactly what you want to see. A very young core and young players in Denver. And believe it or not, this is only their 4th season together. As a group, it's their 4th season, and they are in the Western Conference Final. Jamal Murray, how old is he? 22 years old. Jokic, 24 years old. He's the oldest of the group. Jokic is 24, still very young. Murray, 22. Jokic is 24. Porter is 21. Porter is 21 in his first NBA season, so there is much room to grow for Michael Porter. Murray in his 4th year, 22 years old. Third year. Jokic, 24 years old. So all players are young and improving year by year. They got the young core. They got Jokic, Porter, and Murray. So they have a very young and talented young core. We watch these guys, surprise us against Utah, surprise us against the Clippers, honestly surprise us against the Lakers. And now, these guys in coming years, what else do they have to prove for us to say this is the team to watch, to beat in coming years in that Western Conference Final? When we saw that young Celtic team go to the Eastern Conference Final, that was what we said. This Celtic team, watch out. They come back. The team to watch, the young team to watch out east, now out west. It just might be the Denver Nuggets. But, Denver Nuggets are young and up and coming. The Dallas Mavericks are young and up and coming. The New Orleans Pelicans, they're Phoenix Suns. Lots of young and up and coming teams in the Western Conference. That 8th spot, the race for the 8th spot next year, will be even crazier, even more intense. But Denver, time to start putting even more props, even more respect on Denver's name. Two comebacks after being down 3-1. They beat the Clippers, beat Utah. Some great performances from their stars. All of them played great in the postseason in comparison to the regular season. What more do we have to see from this Nugget team? Is it because they're in Denver? Is it because they're the Nuggets? Is it because they're led by a guy in the Jokic who we don't know all that much about? Why are we so hesitant to oversell and overhype this Nugget team? I'm not quite sure. This team needs some respect and props put on its name from what we saw. So props to the Nugget team, what we saw from them. Watch out for them for years to come. That's going to be it for the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Thank you for your continued support. Go check us out on Facebook, Twitter, whatever platform you're listening on. Leave us a comment, a review. As always, thank you for your continued support. We got NFL, football going on all week. We got the NBA Finals starting this week. Go watch all of the sports you can while we have all of them back. I'll be right back here at GSMC on Thursday. I'll see you guys on Thursday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.